Monday on the passing of his brother. We're sorry for your loss. You're in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you all.
We'll start with citizens' time. We have one to sign up. When you come up, please state your name and your address. Dan Howe.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Cheatham, distinguished council, interim city manager Monday, Attorney Taylor Williams. My name is Dan Howe. I live at 100 Gillette Court. I'm also the executive director of Downtown Franklin Association. I'd just like to start the evening off on a good note. We had a wonderful holiday season with the Elf Parade on Thursday, and I want to give a special thanks to all of the city staff that helped with that. Power and Light got our lights hooked up for the tree and everything else. Public Works always helps us with all the things behind the scene that nobody sees. And the police department helped us with security. So that was a very wonderful evening. The Franklin Community Christmas Parade was another wonderful evening. I guess you could call it the calm before the storm. But again, city staff was very, very good and instrumental. We have city staff that helped. Teresa and Lisa was on the committee. Dr. Johnson was well on the committee, but all the city staff helped in making it a wonderful parade. Thank you. It was very safe, and we had over 70 entries, but it turned out to be a wonderful night. And I just wanted to thank everybody for that.
Thank you. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that when we go into closed session, that we also add the consultation with legal counsel pertaining to the possible litigation requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel or consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating and litigating posture of the city. This is pursuant to 2.2-3711A7 and 8.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Motion carries. We'll make sure we include that in the long list we have here on the closed session. Okay. Thank you. We have the consent agenda. We have the minutes from the November 26, 2018 regular meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to those meeting minutes?
I have a couple, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Under the amendments to the agenda, fifth line towards the right-hand side, it says section of the agenda and assigned it, and it should be and.
Okay.
I wasn't going to try to nitpick, but I got a couple other big ones.
All right. Okay.
Public hearing, second line, the, let's see. I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but if you look under the public hearing was closed at 7:12, it talks about discussion, then it talks about voting, then it talks about we'll address separately, and then we go down and we have the vote. So it's just kind of confusing as to how that is. So what I thought is to change the language after some discussion among council members. Mayor Rabel stated that we would do two separate motions, take out the matter was voted on, and then when you get down here you do a first vote to approve the amended and restated articles of incorporation, and then you ask for any questions and comments on the second
Gotcha.
vote,
Yeah, I got you.
and then go through. So,
I think we have more specificity there. We'll be okay. Okay.
not in the right order. Then the page 3. Got another little small one. Let's see, where was that? DB. Fourth row from the bottom. Wait a minute. Oh, page 3, hold on.
finance?
Let's see, page 3, fourth row from the bottom. I don't see it now.
Must be in the,
Oh, it commended the staff and the Mrs. Robin Jones. I don't think you need the "the."
Okay.
That's a small one. Then on page 4, we took a vote and on the Medicaid, it has who the motion was made by, but not who seconded it. And those are mine.
Okay, we'll make sure we get that one correct. Okay,
That was the big one.
okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
And aye, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we have the offshore wind resolution. Who wants to, you got that one, Mr. Mundy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, this resolution in your agenda packet was sent to us by the HRPDC. Their board passed a similar resolution. You actually see the one that they adopted at their last meeting. It was sent to the localities that participate in the PDC to see if their locality is interested in doing the same thing. So Mr. Goodwin did a draft resolution. If you were to take the position of supporting the same position that the PDC did, that is provided in your agenda packet if you wish to do a similar thing.
Okay, discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this information I talked about, mentioned in the council on a report about 4 months ago. We were looking at that. It's a Danish company that's going to about 23 miles off of the shore of Chesapeake Bay, set up wind power to make the wattage better and better efficiency for Dominion as far as developing power. And it's something that a number of localities are planning to do throughout their areas as well, and it'll bring jobs to the area as well.
Yeah. I think, this was approved by PDC, I think,
Right.
which is one of the regional organizations that we're a part of from a
Yes.
business and regional support. I'm not sure we will get any direct benefit, but I think it will be for the region, based on what we've talked about at
it can
PDC.
open up numerous jobs in the area which may benefit our people.
Yes.
The other side of it has been fully vetted by the Navy and the Port Authority, that it will not interfere with any of the shipping lanes or the Navy's.
And that was an initial
Interest.
concern, and they did
Right.
the
Yes.
studies on that to find out that it would not. So, okay. Is there any desired action of council?
Mr. Mayor, I also move that we do a letter of support in supporting this project.
So we would really adopt the resolution
Yes.
of offshore wind development. Do we need to read that, Mr. Williams? I know you're a stickler for our reading those things.
Yes, sir, I would ask that you read it.
Okay. Do you mind, somebody mind reading?
I'll go ahead and start.
Okay, we'll go ahead.
Hampton, let's see, that's the Hampton Road Planning.
It's the city
If I
of
can get
Franklin.
ours here. There we go. City of Franklin, a resolution in support of offshore wind energy development off the coast of Virginia. Whereas recent reports by the Virginia Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy have identified the potential for significant economic development opportunities for the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Hampton Roads region from the emerging offshore wind energy industry, and whereas the U.S. East Coast opportunity for offshore and energy extends from South Carolina to New England and has a 20-year build-out potential of 20,000 megawatts of installed capacity, 2,000 to 3,000 wind turbines, and potential to generate over 14,000 jobs in the construction, maintenance, manufacturing, and other service-related industries. And whereas Dominion Energy contracted in 2017 with a global wind leader, Ørsted Energy of Denmark, to build coastal Virginia Offshore CVOW and 2-turbine 12-megawatt demonstration project located 23.5 nautical miles offshore from the Virginia Beach coastline, and CVOW project is targeted for completion in 2020 and will lay the groundwork for potential large-scale commercial development up to 2,000 megawatts, and whereas studies of the market opportunities for attracting the offshore wind energy industry in the U.S. East Coast have identified several unique competitive advantages for Virginia and Hampton Roads region, including pro-business climate, America's largest shipbuilding industry, unmatched port infrastructure, congestion-free harbor navigation, progressive state energy policy, zero air draft for ocean-going vessels, high-quality workforce, abundant waterfront land and infrastructure, strategic geographic location. Whereas offshore wind energy development offers several opportunities for a better energy future and improved quality for life for Virginia residents, including reduced reliance on out-of-state electricity by 30%, elimination of 3 million tons of carbon dioxide pollutants per year, powering more than 500,000 homes with renewable energy, improving energy and resiliency and security. Whereas planning and development of offshore wind energy projects undergoes a federally mandated environmental review and permitting process, which includes input from all affected stakeholders from the local, state, and federal levels, including environmental agencies, commercial fishing, interest, and the Department of Defense. And whereas reports by HRPDC, Reinvent Hampton Roads, the Hampton Roads Economic Development Alliance, and Go Virginia Region 5 have identified the need to diversify the Hampton Roads economy and create higher-paying jobs by working collaboratively as a region and focusing limited resources on target businesses sectors. And whereas several organizations have adopted resolutions or provided letters of support for the development of offshore wind energy off the Virginia coast, including the City of Norfolk, the City of Virginia Beach, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, Reinvent Hampton Roads, and the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Frank M. Rabel, Mayor, City of Franklin, and Franklin City Council hereby 1, agrees to support the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy, as well as other state, regional, and federal agencies to proactively pursue regional economic development efforts related to the offshore wind supply chain. 2, agrees to support state and regional workforce development agencies in their efforts to develop new and strengthen existing workforce development programs to further advance the offshore wind supply chain. 3, agrees to support state and regional partners to develop a Virginia offshore wind branding campaign. 4, agrees to work with federal, state, and regional partners and the Hampton Roads delegation to identify economic development incentives and infrastructure funding programs to promote development of the offshore wind supply chain. In witness hereof, I hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Franklin to be fixed this 10th day of December 2018, signed by Frank M. Rabel, Mayor, City of Franklin, and attested by Clarence C. Monday, interim clerk of council.
Okay.
Whew, that was a long one.
If you're gonna make us read them, we gotta make them shorter.
I agree.
Okay, that's in the form of a motion?
That's in the form of a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay? Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report and presentation. You want to invite Ms. Babb up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, our treasurer, Donna Babb, is here with you this evening to present her annual delinquent tax collection report, which goes through the various revenue sources that the city has. She does have some action for you towards the end of her presentation, where she'll be asking you to write off some of the parts that are deemed uncollectible and also have our finance director here if you have any questions about the revenue sources. And Mr. Mayor, Ms. Babb's report has been provided to you in advance in your agenda packet, and she's here to present her annual report, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Babb.
Let me see if I can figure this one out. Let's see. There it is. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Rabel, Vice Mayor Mr. Cheatham, members of council, interim city manager Mr. Monday, and city attorney Taylor Williams. I bring before you the annual treasurer's report for 2018. The delinquent taxes that are through note collections through November 18. Let's see. It's not working. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you. He did tell me to do that. Apologize. He did tell me to do that. The delinquent tax amount for the city of Franklin as of the November 30th, 2018 is $334,163.82. This amount reflects tax years for 2016 and older for all taxes that are owed to the city. This last collection report was 2017 for November the 30th of 2017. The delinquency was $295,453.71. As of November the 30th, I'm going to first go over the real estate. As of November the 30th, 2018, there's $175,420.41 in delinquent real estate taxes. Those years go for 2001 to 2016. For those collections, we have about 20 taxpayers that are on payment plans, whether we have put them on a manual payment plan or we have attached wage liens against their employment. I continue to work with the tax attorney, Jason Dunn, out of the Virginia Beach office, who assists me in selling any properties that are at the, who meet those requirements for a tax sale based on the Virginia State Code 58.1, 3965.1. Right now, Mr. Dunn has about 26 properties that he is being worked. Through those 26, Mr. Dunn, with my direction, will put many of those properties on payment plans, or we'll work with the taxpayer trying to help them retain their properties. If they do not meet the requirements based on Mr. Dunn, then they will be at a tax sale. Went ahead and gave you a little more information this year. I went ahead and pulled some data for the 2017 real estate. Of that $5.5 million that we budgeted for, we right now have about $186,748.51 on the uncollected, showing that for 2017 we have a collection rate of about 97% for those collections for real estate. Oops. For personal property, as of the November the 30th, again, all of these reports were based on a November 30th collection. We have about $148,975.74 that has on the uncollected. This is for tax years 2008 through 2016. Again, I continue to work with taxpayers on payment plans. These are broken down to monthly payments that will have all the accounts paid off prior to us billing the next taxable year. If the taxpayer does as the agreement, and we get a signed agreement from the taxpayer, that will prevent them from having any additional collections or any actions taken against them. Should they break the plan, then we commence to the collection actions that the state allows me. I went ahead and also did, again, the 2017 tax year. We had 2.8 million budgeted, and we have right now delinquent about $76,842.04 uncollected, showing we have about a 97 collection rate for 2017 as of November 30th. I'll be bringing back later, based on the statute of limitations, based on 58.1, 30, 40. There are going to be some charge-offs for personal property of 2012 in the amount of $20,185.50. Those I'm going to be deemed uncollectible. After my presentation, I'll bring those back up for approval. Business license for, as of November 30th, again, 2018, we have one business license that is delinquent for tax year 2014. It's in the amount of $13.52. The business closed. The person has not been able, we have not been able to locate that person. He closed, left the city prior to paying this. We will be having to charge off unless we continue to do research and try to find this business. It was a very small business, but they up and closed. Mills tax and lodging, we currently have about $9,754.15 in delinquent mills tax and zero in lodging. One of the businesses that is delinquent is on a signed payment with me, a payment plan with me. He can pay. This business continues to pay weekly payments with me. The requirement for being on a payment plan is that the business has to continue to file and pay all current taxes. I continue to work with the delinquent taxes prior to any current ones. The other business, it was two businesses. One of them is closed and the owner is deceased. These mills tax were filed after the closing of the business by a family member, and no money was paid at the filing, and therefore it's been impossible to collect because now the family, the owner of that business is deceased. We will continue to try to research attorneys and stuff like that for his estate, but we have been not successful at this time. If you'll look at the historical data from 2010, when I took over the collections, I gave you a little brief historical, and you'll see the decreasing. We did have a slight increase, not much, but a slight increase based on from 17 to 18, which, as you'll see, from 2010, we reduced the delinquent collections pretty much each year that we present to you guys. I also did a presentation here showing the historical data in a slide. The additional information that I wanted to share with you, I've shared with you over many times, but I wanted to kind of give you a little more information. You know, we continue to have tools that the state, the Code of Virginia 58.1 allows me to collect. So therefore, I've listed a few of those tools so you all are aware of the tools that I utilize in my office. We're always looking for new tools. The association is, once something is working in a location or we have found it, we share with other treasurers, and when we go to our conferences, there's always vendors there offering their knowledge to help the treasurers collect on the delinquencies. I gave you a little bit of data in the DMV stops. We had 899 attempts. We had 500 enforced for the 2018, and of 2018 so far, we have removed 477 removed stops. The debt set-off, we attached, Virginia debt set-off is anyone who receives a state refund. We can attach a lien against that refund, and that money will come to the locality. and that amount was $155,770.06. That could be a state refund or a lottery winnings. So we have the ability to check both of those. VAC is Virginia Auction Company. Last year, we had 56 boots. 53 of those boots were redeemed by the owner, and the other 3 were sold at an auction. We collected $20,506.06 for VAC. The booting has drastically reduced from the beginning, as taxpayers are aware that once the delinquencies, we send a letter giving them the knowledge that this will happen should they choose not to pay their taxes. Many will come in, get on a payment plan, or they will pay the taxes. We had a tax sale last year. We had seven properties that went up for a sale. These properties dated back as far as 2001. 6 of those properties were sold, and they are brought back into a current tax roll. The other one that was not sold will be brought back probably for the 3rd and final time. We'll have to make some additional decisions on what. This person is deceased and no family members have been able to be reached to see if we can satisfy this piece of property. We've had 219 garnishments over the last year. Some, when the garnishment hits their first paycheck, they come in and they pay, and we release that garnishment. A new one that we started about 2 years ago is the unclaimed property with the Virginia that allows us to claim the property of unclaimed funds that goes into that state. We had 139 claims and received about $11,753. We try to track these collection tools so you're aware that these tools that we do use do work. Our first attempt is to send a letter, get the delinquent people in, make a payment plan so that we don't have to go after other options for them. Many of the taxpayers do come to me. They've already started. We had a December 5th due date. They're already wanting to know when they can start their payment plan. I usually don't start them during the holiday seasons because we are busy collecting taxes, but usually the second week in January, we start payment plans. And it can be real estate, personal property, anything that is owed, we will work with the taxpayer and put them on a payment plan. Wanted to give you a little bit of news, just the office, what we have going on in our office. The collection percentage rate for this office is, I feel pretty good about this. It's the cumulative percentage rate for our real estate based on 1998, which is the data that we have on the current software, to 2017. I report this to the Treasurers Association. This is one part of my requirement to stay certified as a Master Governmental Treasurer, and also a part of me trying to get office accreditation through the association. Right now, our real estate is 99.8%. For personal property, on the books from 2001 to 2017, we have a 99.05%. Like I said before, requirements for the Office of Accreditation through the Treasurers Association of Virginia. I must maintain for real estate, I must maintain a 95% or higher rate to keep my office accreditation. And I have to maintain a 90 or higher, and that is based on the size of our locality and the amount of that they set forth for our locality. So 90% is for our personal property and 95% is our real estate. And as you can see, that I have met those requirements. The Treasurer's Office for 2018, we did meet the requirements for all the requirements for the Office of Accreditation for the 5th time in a row since I took office. And started applying for that office accreditation. This is one of the highest awards that the Treasurers Association gives to treasurers. Again, each year, in 2018, at the conference in Roanoke, I was sworn in for first vice president of the association. I was very humbled and honored that they chose me, and hopefully I can continue to represent the city of Franklin in that capacity. We are still continuing to work with our Edmonds module. I see that that is coming up on one of the talks from Mr. Monday, but we are working towards that. We see some movement, and hopefully we will continue to find more movement with that modules as we move forward with the tax modules. We're continuing to utilize the Edmonds module for utilities, and I think we are becoming a little bit better. It's been over a year since we went live, and there are some challenges with it, but we are getting a little bit better at learning how to maneuver through those softwares. When you have a software that you've had for over 20 years and you step into something new, it is a little harder to teach us new tricks. But other than that, I have, let's see. Let me get back out of here and get back to the presentation. In your packet, I have the charge-offs. And there's a list of those charge-offs. The state code requires me that if after 5 years, I cannot collect those. The statute of limitation gives me that length of time. If I make a payment plan with somebody on that during that time and it surpasses the state statute of limitations, I can keep those on the books because I have made an agreement with the taxpayer and I can continue. The ones that I'm presenting to you are ones that we have not been able to find. Some are deceased. There are some that have moved away or they have moved to another state and working, and we are not able to collect on that. So for your approval, I am asking for council's approval to let me charge off personal property tax year 2012 that I have deemed uncollectible based on 58.13940 in the amount of $20,185.50.
Before we get into that,
Okay.
does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bear?
Sorry, I meant to ask that. I just moved right on.
I
I
know.
apologize.
I understand where you're trying to go, trying to get out of here. But does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bear?
I have a
Yeah.
couple.
Okay.
You have 20 taxpayers on monthly payments. What's the total that they owe? Do you have any idea?
I don't really keep track of that. I can get that for you. It might be a little time consuming, but I can get that for you. A lot of those are real estate you're talking about, so they could go back as far as, I think if I'm mistaken, I think I've got one that's 2012 and they're on a monthly payment plan. The way I work the payment plans for real estate is if they make their monthly payment as they have agreed and they have signed the agreement, I will let them make their monthly payment on a monthly basis, and I will let them, if they've not missed or not had any problems making those payments, I will let them pay their current when the current comes due to save them from penalties and interest, where I'm trying to mirror the delinquency and the current together so that they're not penalized, and as long as they're making their payments, I'll allow them to do so. But I can get that figure for you if you need that.
On the collection where you have the decedents, I mean, you're searching the estate records to see that they're, okay.
Correct. Everybody goes when they become delinquent, including December the 5th. They're now delinquent if they have not paid their taxes. They are now placed in the Virginia debt set-off with the taxation. The state allows us to immediately put them in there because if they file their taxes, that money will come straight to us. We're about 4th place. There are other positions ahead of us. We're about 4th in the row, but we do get quite a bit of money through the taxation.
I don't know how it works, but when you qualify as executor, you list all the assets. Can y'all put some sort of can it be searched? So you can put something on record so the money's not dispersed until you're paid, if you have anybody like that?
We have not done that. That is something we can do. We do search the estates and try to get that. Most of the time when they're deceased, they may have a vehicle. We watch the vehicle. If the vehicle's been placed in another person's name, it's not a bona fide sale. So therefore, I can go capture that vehicle. And we have done that on numerous occasions. Most of the time, we get it, we contact them, we'll boot it first before towing it, and then therefore, it stops the taxpayer from being able to move, and then the person who has taken the ownership, they may not have, and if they've put it in their name, then DMV can get involved, but it's not a bona fide sale, therefore they have to come back in and pay all the delinquent taxes on the piece of property that they've taken ownership with. And we'll show them the state code that shows them it's not a bona fide sale.
On the set-off, do you put it in the record one time and until it's paid, it stays with the state? They don't have to, you don't
We
have
have
to
to
keep doing it?
update it every November 1.
Okay.
And then we go back in December 6th, and any record that has not been paid by November, the old records are November 1. That's a requirement by the Department of Taxation. December 6th is anybody who hasn't got 5, we update it. If they are already in the system, we don't have to update those. It's the new ones who haven't paid. It's a lot of work.
And my final question is there any cooperation between states for people that leave to search them and to be able to have them have debt set off in that state?
No, not at this time. Right now, we are working, the association, we're trying to get a legislative to where we can tax federal. We've got a couple of legislators that are on our side, but it just depends on how it's going to be passed in January's legislative. We try to carry it every couple of years for them, so we're trying to capture the federal, but other states, no, we are not able, it's not workable between state to states. If they leave us and they work in our connecting areas, we have seized, garnished someone's wages that had moved up to Texas, but there was a business in Virginia, so we were able to capture that. They moved and left us, but because Texas, they had a place in Virginia, we were able to do so. But they have to have something in Virginia for us to do that.
That's all.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
Yes, could you tell me again, what was your total for, if you gave it, for sales tax, delinquent sales tax?
Delinquent sales tax?
Yes.
I
We
don't have,
We don't have any delinquent sales tax?
I have mills tax, lodging tax. Those two are what I collect on the sales tax.
So we don't have
to
any
the state.
delinquents?
Mills tax?
Yes.
Yes, I gave that report to you.
I'm asking, what was that number?
It's like, hold on, if you let me flip back to my page.
9,000.
A little
I
over
want to say it's a
9,000.
little over 9,000.
9754. Is any of that fiduciary?
Yes, it is, and I've made an agreement with that person to stay current and work out a payment plan on the delinquencies.
So on fiduciary tax, that money is supposed to be, we act pretty much, do we act as a pass-through for it to go to the state?
No, they pay the state and then they pay us. It's a mills tax. They pay a certain percentage to the state, and then they pay a percentage, 6.5% to us.
So do we know if the state's been paid when they're delinquent
I don't get
with us?
involved with that unless the state calls me on any of the localities, any of the businesses that have mills tax, unless they call me. I don't deal with what the state
Because-
sales tax.
Okay, I understand with the state. Because fiduciary taxes, as you know, they are collected from the clients,
Right,
from the patrons,
that's right.
and they're supposed to pass that money through to us. It's not their money.
Right.
So when you're making arrangements for them to pay that money back, it's kind of like they took it out the till, and we're giving them a break on it so they can use it for whatever they want to use it, and then make arrangements with us to pay it back.
I understand what you're saying, but I would rather work the way I'm working with this
Business.
person or anybody.
It's a business, right?
It's a business. Anybody that becomes in a problem, we try to work with them. We want to keep the businesses open in Franklin. We want to work with them. We don't want to just go in there and shut down. If you talk to many localities, they will work with those. Everybody has some rough times. And so my job is to try to keep those businesses open and working with them. But I have some very strict rules. When they get delinquent and I put them on a plan, their new stuff does not go on a plan. It's only going to be what I have deemed as a plan. They have to file and pay current. They
What is
have-
the repercussions if they violate the agreement?
Excuse me?
What are the repercussions if they violate the agreement?
We can shut them down. We can.
Have you ever?
I have not. I have not, and I hope I don't have to. I can go and get a sheriff from the county,
Yeah,
and I
because-
can do a till tap.
My concern is I have businesses in my ward, but I have a lot of citizens, and I'm just concerned when they're late on their taxes, they run the risk of getting boots on their cars. And it takes, it doesn't take as much. But these businesses are able to get away with taking money that isn't even theirs.
Hasn't been any getting away with since it's been my watch. I'll be very honest with you. This was prior to me, and it was a severe delinquency, and I'm working with them, and if I honor that, then that's what is done, and I have that authority to work with that that business, and as long as that business does as we decide and we have agreed upon, I am going to work with that because I want to keep our businesses open, just like anybody who gets booted. That is not kind of apples and apples, but since you brought booting up, we will work with people. And we've done that
Prior to
prior
booting?
to the booting, yes. And
Okay.
if they choose
As long
not,
as I could tell the citizens that before they get booted, you will give them
they
opportunity.
know that I'll work with them.
to
It's
work with them.
stated on that. I work with them. The boot is one of my latter results. They can come in here and they can get on a payment plan. And as long as they're in that payment plan, just like any other delinquencies, they don't have to worry about me. So when they don't pay, they have to worry about it.
And what was your fee, your number again? You had 9,000 on meals tax. What was the number again, on utilities? Did you give a utilities
I
number?
don't get that report, no, sir.
Okay. Who's responsible for the delinquent utilities?
Finance. I collect on the utilities, but finance gives that report on the utilities.
But do you have delinquent?
I have it on, I'm charged with it once it becomes inactive, and I don't usually report that. We
Okay.
do that, we
Thank
do
you.
that at a later time. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Babb had asked us for a recommended charge-offs on
Do you want me to go over that again, Mayor
personal
Rabel?
property. I've got it, I think. Personal property taxes of $20,185.50. Is there any desired action of council?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to charge off $20,185.50 of personal property tax from the year 2012. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Nay?
Aye.
And aye, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hopefully you'll see me next year.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Babb.
You're welcome.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, did we congratulate her on her position?
We should.
Yeah,
Go right ahead.
we should. Ms. Babb, we would like to congratulate you on your diligence and hard work for the position that you have as, I think it's vice chair?
First
First
vice.
chair, first vice, okay.
First vice president for the Treasurers Association of Virginia.
Thank you.
And your award of accreditation.
Yeah,
Yes,
and your awards.
Yes,
Yeah.
accreditation.
And please pass along our thanks to your staff, because I know
Yes.
whereas you're the one that has a name on everything, they're the ones that get a lot
They
of the work
do.
done.
I do want to say that. My staff is an excellent staff. We're a great team. All of us try to do everything that we can to better this city by bringing in the collections. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor.
We'll move along to the old and new business. We have the EMS subscription program. Mr. Mundy, you want to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. At a previous budget workshop that you had, you talked about an EMS subscription program. You asked the staff to provide additional information. You talked about the subject again, maybe 2 regular meetings ago, and at that time, you authorized the staff to actually bring you back a program for implementation and further consideration. And this evening, you have the interim fire chief, Mark Carr, here with you, who will review the program, talk about the application that is in your agenda packet, what the proposed fee would be, and then if the council still desires to offer this to our citizens, it would be action required by you to implement this voluntary program. So, Mr. Mayor, you have interim chief Carr with you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Franklin City Council members, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and administration. As Mr. Mundy said, this is no new information. We had talked about this on several occasions. It's something that the Fire and Rescue Department feels very strongly about, giving opportunity for our citizens and the customers that we serve not to be hit with a big copay or out-of-pocket expense. It's an avenue that will be strictly volunteer. If someone chooses to subscribe to this, that is solely up to the individual or the individual's family. If they choose not to, there's nothing that we would do. We would provide the same service and go through our normal billing. What is an EMS subscription service? A subscription service is a program designed to help the citizens of our city defray their out-of-pocket expenses such as health insurance, co-pays, and deductibles when they need emergency ambulance transportation. The subscription program is designed to work together with the city's EMS recovery program that we currently operate with to get reimbursement for our emergency medical services. How will it work? The subscriber or the insurance, or Medicare or Medicaid, any other insurances are billed for the services rendered, just like we do now. Then, if there is any balance due and the citizen is enrolled in our subscription service program, they will not be responsible for that copay or any difference. What will this cost the citizens? For $60 a year, that subscription can list everyone in that household for that $160, and any of those people that's listed on that application will be covered for that year's period. And we are looking to run this subscription service, and hopefully, if council approves tonight and we can move forward, we'll implement it January 1, run from January 1 to December 31st of each year, with the option for the clients or for our citizens to renew it each year. This is just a copy of what the subscription actual application looks like. I believe you have one in your agenda package. And I know this is short and brief, but I do believe that this is truly a benefit for the citizens of Franklin and the customers that we serve.
Okay.
Open to any questions that you may have.
Is there any way we can do without the social security number on the application? I'm not real wild about putting that out for everybody.
We can look into that, and I can get with Mr. Williams.
Even if they
and
just use the last 4 digits or something.
And I'm sure we do. That's what we do mostly in the fire service. We use our last 4 as our identifier, and that's basically what it is for an identifier.
With everything going on right now with identification.
I understand. I understand. And we will look into that to make sure we address that. Yes, sir.
Chief, you mentioned that if their Medicaid or Medicare insurance didn't cover it, then, or the whole thing, then the subscription would pick up the difference.
Yes, sir.
Suppose they don't have insurance at all.
That is an avenue that's pretty great, and I really can't give you a concrete answer. But if you have this subscription program the way it's written, because we talked about this today, you would be covered.
You'd be covered.
You'll be covered. That is not the intent of it. The intent of it is to help that copay that you would have with your insurance or with your Medicare or Medicaid program.
But what you're saying is they'd be covered on the ambulance service only, not...
Ambulance service only,
That's-
just the ambulance
yeah.
service, yes, sir.
Not to include, for the people listening at home, the ambulance services would be covered. What wouldn't be covered?
Your hospital visit, your medical care.
Well, I'm just thinking, the ambulance service, is there a difference between the ambulance service and the EMT care?
No, sir, that all.
So that whole charge would
Yes,
be
sir.
covered?
All of that is rolled into one. That bill is your coverage for transportation and for the care that you receive from the
Very
city EMS services.
And before you, if we approve this tonight, before you would change that, it would come back before council.
Sorry,
I'm for approving it now. If they have Medicaid, they have Medicare, their coverage doesn't meet the bill, you cover the slack.
yes, sir.
But as it is now, if they don't have insurance at all, you still, if they're in the program, you cover them. So
The way this is right now today,
Yeah,
yes,
so
sir.
before you would change that where they aren't covered, you'd come back to council.
I would certainly, council would have to make approval for us to change what this standard that we have. set
Okay.
is.
Okay.
And is that unlimited services?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That is for the year's coverage.
Right.
If we, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if you'll transport it to the hospital once a week for that 52 times, it's covered.
okay.
That's for the whole year.
So are you saying that if somebody does not have health insurance, where if I have health insurance, it's just my out-of-pocket that's covered, but if somebody doesn't have health insurance, you cover the whole thing, not
Well,
an
and we
equivalent
talked-
amount?
Again, as I said, we talked about that this afternoon as a fallacy in this whole program, and I checked with other communities also, and they don't spell out the difference. It's $60 program to cover the EMS fees.
We'll see how it works.
Yeah. I would, are you planning on coming back to us every year, or or only if there are going to be tweaks to it?
I would say only if we're going to change the program in any way to address such issues as that we see that this is a problem, that we are having a gang of uninsured people taking this program.
I think it would probably be of benefit to us to get some type of, I don't know, semi-annual report on
Yes.
how it's going, to that degree of how many were uninsured, how many participants and how many, and really how it's going as far as the number of people who enroll in the subscription process, so.
I believe during our budget process that we normally talk about
Right.
our collection rates and where we stand, and probably this would be a good opportunity to come back to brief council on the number of enrollments and versus the number of uninsured enrollments in this program.
Okay, I think that'd be good.
Yes.
Anybody have any other questions, comments?
Well, I just think that we won't have a big problem with the uninsured people because people who would purchase this program are proactive people. And proactive people are more likely to have insurance than people who are indigent or whatever. So I don't think we should have that many uninsured people taking advantage of the program. We should probably have the same amount of uninsured people that you cover now will still be uninsured, and you'll bill them as you bill them now.
I'm inclined to agree with your interpretation of that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And Chief, if you foresee any difficulty or problems, would you come back to council before it gets out of hand?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you.
One question of tying in with the insurance, is it when we get the bill from our insurance company that we owe this, that we bring it to you guys? Or how do you tie it in with the insurance? Because I don't see anything on the application
This,
tying it
when
in.
we will go through our normal collection, just put this right out of your mind for a minute. When we pick you up, we get from the hospital what they call a cover sheet. It has all of your hospital information, insurance. We turn that over to our billing company. They collect from the insurance company. And then whatever balance is left, that's what the individual is charged. But if we go to this program, if they're put into the system and when their name pops up or anyone that pops up that's covered, once they have been through that process, they will not be getting a bill for the difference.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any desired action of council?
I would move to approve the EMS subscription program.
Okay,
With
Second.
the caveat that
We
we fix
check
the
in-
social security number.
check into Social Security.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. All right. We now go to Franklin Housing Redevelopment, Redevelopment Housing Authority presentation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Philip Page, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, is here to present their annual report and also their financial report as requested by the City Council.
Okey-doke.
Good evening, members of City Council, Mr. Monday, Mr. Williams. My name is Philip Page. I'm the Executive Director of the Franklin Redevelopment and Housing Authority. I was asked to bring an annual report for council and talk about just the finances of FRHA. So I prepared a presentation for you. Look forward to presenting to you and answer any questions. Also, I think I'd like to introduce our board chair, Ms. Ferda Jackson, is inconspicuously in the background. And I believe that you have the presentation in front of you, and so I presented here with no changes. The last time I was able to present to City Council as far as an update, I believe we were somewhere in the middle of a 5-year plan. That plan started in 2014, and we expect it to end in 2019. There are 3 big goals I think that we had, pretty audacious goals, but we've made, I think, good headway towards reaching or obtaining almost all of them. The top goal was to convert all of our 150 public housing units through a HUD program called RAD. It stands for Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. So our 3 former public housing properties, Berkeley Court Apartments, Pretlow Gardens, and Old Town Terrace, have all been renovated as of 2015 into 2016. And they are no longer technically public housing. They still serve a low-income population. We're still able to serve low and moderate income families, but they're technically not classified as public housing anymore. Along with that process, we also moved our main office out of Berkeley Court Apartments into downtown office, what I think most of us know as the old BB&T Bank building. The second big goal was the creation of quality, affordable housing. It was our desire to create senior housing as well as veteran housing. We are still working towards veteran housing, but we were able to acquire Holland Trace Apartments in 2017. That property came up for sale, and there was concern that the property would not maintain, I guess, its affordability, so we did move to purchase it and did purchase it in 2017. It's our goal to renovate that property, and we will do that in the next few years here. The property, I think, is held up pretty well, but it's over 15 years old, and in that 15 to 20-year period, I think, is due for some renovations. The third of kind of the big goals that we had was the creation of affordable home ownership opportunities. We established and have maintained an annual home buyers club. We've been able to work with families in Franklin and some outside of Franklin on a one-year plan, to become homeowners. The training actually lasts a year. We meet with families once a month throughout that year period to really train them how to be homeowners. And so really fortunate. I think we've had great success stories over the years. This year, there's 2 families who have become home buyers, and of course, we continue to work with the others in the club. The other portion of the creation of affordable home ownership is the Estates at Bank Street, which I'd like to give a quick update on later in the presentation. This slide is really just to give you a snapshot of the property that the Redevelopment and Housing Authority owns and manages. These 3 properties are former public housing properties. Again, we still own them, we still manage them. They have been renovated, and they do maintain for the tenant some form of subsidy to make the property affordable to the tenant. These other 2 properties under our Housing and Property Management Division are pretty much market rate properties. The Terrace at Bruce Street was a property that had fallen into disrepair. It actually had been condemned, and the Redevelopment Housing Authority was able to acquire it and renovate that way back in 2015, and it stands now as a fairly freshly renovated property serving 12 families right now. And then, as I mentioned before, we acquired and will renovate, but currently own and operate the Holland Trace Apartments. That's 48 senior family units, 1 and 2 bedroom units that we acquired in 2017. The other kind of big program that the Redevelopment and Housing Authority is able to manage is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Many refer to it as the Section 8 program. We've run this program for several years in Southampton County and the city of Franklin. I think it was 2 years ago we acquired the management of the Housing Choice Voucher Program in Isle of Wight County. Excuse me. Actually, Isle of Wight County is split, where the Franklin Redevelopment Housing Authority manages the Housing Choice Vouchers in the southern tip of Isle of Wight County, and the Suffolk Redevelopment Housing Authority actually manages it in the northern tip. There are 289 vouchers, that's 289 families that we work with throughout those 3 areas. 247 of those families are anywhere between Franklin and Southampton County, and have the opportunity to kind of move around in that area. Another 42 vouchers or 42 families that we work with in Isle of Wight County. Those are who we currently serve with the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We do maintain a waiting list. Unfortunately, that list is closed right now. The waiting list has about 190 families on it. We close the waiting list when we get to the point where we can't reasonably serve additional families. And so we close it for a time. Whenever that waiting list goes down, either by additional funds that we receive from HUD or by people kind of graduating from the program so that we can serve people on the waiting list, we'll open the waiting list back up. In addition, we have a housing services kind of plethora of programs. One is the Homebuyers Club that I mentioned before. The other is the summer feeding program. We were fortunate to be able to serve, I think it was about 4,000 meals this past summer at 6 different sites, some of our sites and some other housing sites to youth in the area, which was very beneficial. I'm very proud to do that. We do have a tutoring program on our Berkeley Court site, 3 times a week. After school, we have several housing counseling programs that we get funds from HUD and from VHDA in order to serve. And by virtue of the acquisition of Holland Trace Apartments, we are able to, I think, ramp up our services to seniors. The last kind of project that I just wanted to mention is a housing development project. I think most of you on council are aware that we have been working for years before I arrived, and certainly the years that I've been here, to redevelop what was Suburban Gardens. That was the last, actually the oldest of the public housing in the city of Franklin. There were 75 units of public housing there on 9 acres. The last of that property was demolished in 2010. Since then, and like I said, even before that, we've put together kind of several proposals. I actually was before City Council last year, February of last year, asking for your permission to apply for funding, request funding in the way of tax credits. Really appreciate the support of City Council. Back then, we did apply for tax credits. We were denied, not that the application was not good, but there were other, I guess, more worthy applications at the time. When we applied in 2017, we applied again in 2018, then we applied again in the middle of 2018, and we were just notified last month that VHDA did give us an award of low-income housing tax credit. So I'm happy to report that the project that we've called the Estates at Bank Street will move forward, or at least has jumped over that last financial hurdle to be able to move forward in 2019. I gave this presentation to City Council. I won't give it again, but just wanted to give a quick recap. The estates at Bank Street will be 24 single-family homes. Again, we'll develop that in 2019. It is on our rental to home ownership model. So it will start out giving 24 families the opportunity to rent detached single-family homes and really learn through a period of time how to become homeowners. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to do that. 16 of the units will be 3-bedroom homes. Another 8 units will be 5-bedroom homes. And so it really, I think, is an exciting opportunity for us, not just to provide housing, but to provide it in a home ownership setting to where, we not just give, families suitable space to live and enjoy their lives, but a yard and space for parking and really just kind of something to call their own as they work towards home ownership. So excited about that project kicking off in 2019. It was my understanding that council also wanted something in the way of a finance report, and so I'm just presenting to you on the screen kind of 2 sections of the budget that the FRIJ board actually just approved this month. The housing management revenue and expenses covers all of our central office and all of the properties that FRIJ owns and manages. That's all of the tenant income, whether the tenant pays that directly or whether it receives some subsidy from HUD. That $1.5 million is all of that tenant income through all of the properties, market rate and subsidized, that we own and manage. The grant income that you see there is the grants that I alluded to for VHDA and from HUD. That's the housing counseling grants, family self-sufficiency grants, and other supportive services grants that we get on an annual basis. So the total kind of revenue that comes in is the $1.7 million. That money, it's not exactly pass-through funds, but we operate off of pretty much a break-even budget. Just under half of the revenue that that comes into us goes out in the way of administrative expenses, salaries, benefits, employee expenses. There are utility costs, maintenance expenses, again, on all of the properties is that $433,000 number. And then the properties that we own and manage still have some measure of debt on them, and so there are financing expenses for the year that are listed there. The last slide that I just wanted to show you before I'd be glad to answer whatever questions you have is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. I think you know, but I just wanted to maybe restate to you and make sure that everyone understands. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, or the Section 8 program, is a program that really serves families. We don't own the properties that they live in. We're not the landlord. We don't have the lease with them. We serve the families wherever they may live. So it may be a separate owned apartment complex. It may be a single-family home that's owned by some other landlord. The funds that we receive, specifically this $1.8 million that comes in, that we're projected, to come in as grant income, about $1.7 million of that will go out to landlords in Franklin and Southampton County and Isle of Wight County for the specific purpose of paying the difference between what the tenant is able to afford and what the tenant is not able to afford, capped at 30% of what the tenant's income is. And then list just the other expenses, the largest, of course, of which is what we call the HAP expense, but that's the housing assistance payment. That's what goes to the landlord. There are administrative expenses, of course, for the staff that take care of the program. There are utility and maintenance expenses, some that are paid on behalf of the tenant. And again, it's largely is and has been a break-even budget at $1.9 million. That is the presentation. I'd be glad to answer any questions or dig deeper into anything that you care to discuss.
Questions?
Yes. I have two, Mr. Page, and that is, number one is, where did the funds that were collected for the lights, utilities, where did that go? Number two, what did it take, why did it take so long for the issue to be brought to City Council?
I'll speak about that as much as I can. If there's something that I can't say, I guess I'd maybe kind of defer to Mr. Williams, just to not say more than I guess I should say in open session. My kind of quick synopsis of all of the funds that we receive, specifically the funds for the Section 8 program, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, come in on a monthly basis, and that self-adjusts. So if money's not spent, then money's not received again, and there's not a way for us to kind of store that money up. FRHA does have reserve funds. The reserve funds that we have, it's not to be understood as profit, but it's reserve funds that can go for additional maintenance or to develop additional properties or things like that. Those are held in trust either by VHDA, which is the Virginia Housing Development Authority, or HUD, of course, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We're not at liberty to spend that on operational expenses. We do have to seek approval for that, and that is the delay I think that you're alluding to with respect to what we need to pay out just with utility expenses.
Right. Well, I guess to be more specific, if the residents pay for the lights and utilities, where does that money go?
The residents that we have, they pay you direct. They pay the city directly.
They pay the city directly.
The utility bills are in the name of the residents. There are some cases, and it's really a small percentage of the cases where FRHA might have, usually through some type of transition, FRHA might maintain the utility bill in its name on behalf of the tenant, but by and large, tenants are expected to pay. So their payments go directly to the city.
Okay. Thank you.
When I wanted to see financials, I didn't want to see a 7-line budget.
Okay.
Do you have the audited financial statements from the
Sure.
last? Okay.
Sure.
Can we get a copy
Absolutely.
of those?
Yes,
That would tell me more as to what was actually taking place and what's actually going on than what you budgeted for, which is a very snapshot budget.
absolutely.
Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Page, on the properties that you have under RAD and Holland Trace and Terrace at Bruce Street, do you know what your occupancy rate is on those facilities?
It fluctuates, generally about 89% to like 92% occupancy.
And what's your collection percentage on those?
Collections, they vary on the two properties that are market rate properties, Holland Trace and the Terrace at Bank Street. It's usually, 95%. It's pretty high, closer to 88, 89% on the other properties, the former public housing properties that you mentioned.
Other things?
You got folks behind. How lenient are you as far as, if folks were behind?
Yes.
You said 88, 89%. How lenient are you as far as letting them stay there?
Maybe a little difficult to answer. I mean, we address it immediately. I think that's part of just, the tenant accountability and just kind of working with tenants is to address it as soon as it happens. It's usually that next month that we would, take some type of action if the tenant's not able to pay. I won't waste your time, with this, but there's a huge eviction crisis, not just in Virginia, but really throughout the Commonwealth, really the nation. There's a big book about it, and there was just kind of a lot of effort that goes into that. Virginia specifically had been kind of targeted. I think like 6 of the top 10 cities with high eviction rates were in Virginia, not Franklin, but were in Virginia. Sorry to go too much into detail, but we're fortunate in that we've been shown to be, I think, a bit more lenient, which isn't to say lax, but to work a lot more with our tenants and to allow them to either enter into a payment plan or to allow them to pay up until the moment of eviction, where everybody doesn't do that. So I think we're fair. I think that we, certainly try to house as many people as we can on a consistent basis and not upend lives unnecessarily with an eviction.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question for Mr. Page. Mr. Page, what is the general timeline for paying a bill or service that the Housing Authority does? Does it take 1 month, 2 months, 5, 10?
Depends on what it is. Unless nothing else is worked out, it's a 30-day payment cycle.
30 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Mr. Page, you are under the authority, correct me if I'm not mistaken, but you work under the authority of the Housing Board. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I serve at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners that is appointed by City Council.
By City Council. How long has the Housing Authority been functioning in 2018 without having a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
How long had it been functioning without a quorum?
I don't know exactly. I would say 3 months that we did not have a quorum and would
So
not.
that was 3 months without meeting, because you couldn't make decisions without a
We
quorum.
still met. We didn't have a quorum, but the board did receive updates from myself and from my directors regarding the property. I think to your point, actions can't be taken without a quorum, but certainly they were receiving updates at the board.
So you say it was only 3 months?
It is my estimate. I certainly could look at the records and make sure that I'm giving you an accurate answer. But
I would love to get a copy of the attendance records for the meetings for 2018. And are you now, this is December, so in November, was there a fully staffed board for the month of November?
Actually, the last meeting was December 5th, just a week ago. and so-
Okay.
And we did have a quorum. We do not have.
Did you have a full board?
We do not have a 7-member board, no, sir.
When was the last time you did?
I'd have to get that information to you.
I mean, all boards, even the council. Occasionally, somebody's missing, might be me. But for the most part, you know, most of the meetings, we have 7 members here. And I'm kind of trying to get that. Is that the case with the Housing Authority? Do you feel as though we have adequately given you personnel, because we appoint those people, that we have adequately provided you with members so that you can have your fully operating board?
I hope this answers your question. It's really just my response. It's been the practice with any open board membership for FRIJ is that when it becomes available, I would directly contact the person over that board. In none of those cases where I've made contact with the individuals over the ward has anyone, refused to work with me or help me, find someone. I will say it has been difficult, more difficult than we thought. And I think your counterparts on council would agree to that in finding people willing to serve and willing to come to the meetings so that we could present city council with someone to approve. So that has been a difficult process and by no means easy. But I guess I just want to be clear, I certainly don't think of that as the fault of council or anyone on council. Everyone that I've contacted directly certainly has been willing and able to give multiple names at times so that we could find someone to be able to present to city council for voting.
I guess you would be in the best position to answer this accurately for me, to set any type of rumors or misinformations clear. Was there a time that the electric was cut off at your office?
I'm sure there has been a time. No, actually, I don't think it was. I think there was a cutoff notice, if that's what you're alluding to.
No, I heard that the electricity was off at one time, but it could have been a rumor.
I believe that was a rumor if you're talking about the FRJ's properties. Unfortunately,
At the BB&T building?
no, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Was there a time that the phones were cut off?
No, sir.
No?
Not that I'm aware of where phones were cut off.
Mr. Page, I have one question. Was it not made clear to you that your presentation tonight was going to be with annual and financial reports, as it is on the agenda?
I believe that it was. I received the direction from council from Mr. Williams.
I just wanted clarity for myself as to what the agenda states.
I think what the agenda states is accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a couple. The audit that you're going to provide to us, have you gotten your June 30th 18 audit, or is this going to be a 17?
It's not. The June 30th, 18, we have, I'm sorry if I over-explained. since you are on our board, the FRHA is on a fiscal year that ends June 30th. The June 30th 18 audit has not been completed. So I took Mr. Cheatham's request to be, I guess, the last completed audit, if that's accurate.
When do you anticipate the 18 being completed?
It'd be early into, we usually do it, it's within 9 months of the end of the year, so that'd be within the first quarter of 2019. Thanks.
What's the total debt of the authority? And do you have a round figure of what the debt is?
I don't have a round figure that I'd give. Certainly, that's the type of thing I would imagine Mr. Cheatham and the rest of council would like to see on the financial statements. I can tell you that, as I mentioned in my presentation, the debt includes debt service on our main office, the former BB&T Bank building, and then each of the individual properties that we have, there's some measure of debt on that. So there's the accumulation of that. And I'm sorry, if I could go back to your previous question regarding the end of year. When we did the renovation on Berkeley Court Apartments and the renovation on Pratlow Old Town Apartments, those two properties are owned by a separate entity that has a calendar year. So there's different years as far as the audits for those, just to be clear.
So you have a
There's
development entity?
Yes, there's an entity that's controlled by FRHA, but that entity operates on an annual year. So there are annual year audits on Berkeley Court Apartments, there's an annual year audit on Pratlow and Old Town Apartments, and a fiscal year audit that's done on the central office, which is the housing management stuff that I showed you before.
Mr. Auditor, does that roll up into their, into their total, or are they going to be separate?
No, they should be separate, but they probably should also be shown as a combined, I would think, on your.
And on the
your
FRHA,
audits and
on the
simple
FRHA
numbers
audit,
And the you all selling.
correct, it shows them as component units.
I'm sorry?
So,
That's what I'm saying,
That's
right,
right.
it should be
That's what I was
rolled
asking.
into it.
right,
That's what I was asking. So they'll show up in the,
Absolutely.
in the annual audit.
Combined audit, yes, sir.
Since we're not going to get a current audit for probably the next 2 to 3 months, I was wondering when you provide us with the annual audit, if you could just give us November 30th balance on the debt that's outstanding or whatever, closest one you have, by property.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind. That'd be the office and the terrace and Holland Trace, and then what's left on the public housing renovation.
Do you do monthly financial statements that you present to the board as a detailed financial?
A draft report, yeah.
Could we get that for
Sure,
November
but-
as well as the audit?
Sure.
All right, then that way we can kind of look, and I think that would help answer some of the other questions.
To be clear, that's not a full financial statement.
I understand.
Okay.
Doesn't have the footnotes and
Right,
everything,
right,
but it has a balance sheet and an income statement, I'm sure.
Actually, it's just an income statement.
Okay. No balance sheet, so then with what he's got.
To measure, to show the debt. Sure.
Okay.
One final question, and we'll move on to other business. I noticed in your estates at Bank Street that there are 3 to 5 bedroom units, and they'll be rented and then converted over to home ownership.
Yes.
I don't know if it's changed, but back in the day, the highest need was 1 to 3 bedroom units. Has that changed, or is there financial reasons why we've gone to 3 to 5?
No, I think there was probably 2 changes. One is the change to home ownership, because the need for home ownership units, I think, is a little bit different from the need for rental units. You're absolutely right. The overwhelming majority of the units that we have under rent are 1 and 2 bedrooms, and then 1 and 3 bedrooms at most of the former public housing properties. And right now, there are only 3 5-bedroom apartment units that we have under management. Those units are always in demand, you know, and there's a separate waiting list actually for those 5-bedroom units. The estates at Bank Street will have 16 3-bedroom units and only 8 5-bedroom units. So the market study that, you know, we commissioned more than, you know, supports those 8 5-bedroom units, and again, for future home ownership purposes, not just for rental.
I guess my question to that, and I mean, I'm not trying to second guess, but it just seems like if you build a larger house, it's going to be harder for a low to moderate income person to be able to purchase that, because obviously the sales price is going to be a lot higher. So I'm just wondering how does that, is there a higher assistance for that when you go to sell? You know, somebody's been renting it, trying to accumulate money so they can get the down payment or whatever, and now they got to, instead of buying a 1,200 square foot house, they're going to be buying an 1,800 square foot house. How's that going to transition?
Well, to answer your question, there is higher assistance for that. So, you know, the numbers at work, the income at work, to put a family in a 5-bedroom are different than the family that's going to go in the 3-bedroom unit. Because the market study that I mentioned that we commissioned, you know, supports at least those 8 5-bedroom units, I think we or our board really viewed it as an opportunity to house, you know, larger families. Right now, again, of all the housing that we offer, exactly 3 units are 5-bedroom units. And so, you know, anyone with, you know, I think a larger size family, we just hadn't been able to serve beyond those 3 units. And this will give us the opportunity to do that.
You said we've gotten approval, so we've overcome the financial hurdle. We're about to approach 2019. When can we project seeing residents move in on Bank Street?
As far as residents moving in on completed units, you're looking at the end of 2019 to take you through the,
That's fair.
okay.
So within a year, they should be ready to be occupied.
That's the expectation, yes.
So can you foresee any, since you've got the financial part straight, what could be, I mean, I know weather with construction, something of that nature is understandable, but can you foresee any other problems such as you haven't gotten plans approved that will be delayed, drawings, things of that nature? Has all of that stuff been taken care of?
I don't mean to not answer your question. It's a potent question, if I could put it that way. I foresee all types of things that could go wrong, and I'm not just trying to be negative. I'm certainly not trying to, you know, make up reasons why the project won't go through. But, you know, this is a project that started in 2008, you know, 3 years before I arrived, and it's taken us until now to kind of get all of the major pieces in place. I think it'd be foolish of me to say that, you know, it's easy going from here. And so I really just don't want to do that. Everything that you said with respect to weather, you know, construction issues, things, acts of God that could, you know, prevent the construction process, certainly are fair game. In addition to that, we went into this with the budget. We're going to put the project out for bid. We certainly hope that, you know, local and other contractors are able to bid. There's always a question on whether they will submit a bid that's in line with the estimate that we have. You mentioned the plans. We did submit plans to the city. The Community Development Office did review them. Unfortunately, things change, and so right now I can say that they have been reviewed, and we don't expect any changes, but it's happened before to where changes by the state and other, you know, bodies, you know, kind of disrupt the plan. So again, I don't want to be negative, and I'm not, but I really want to go into it with our eyes wide open and make sure that we're prepared for other contingencies, and we are.
I agree, but that's why I asked you first,
I appreciate
what day did you project?
Yeah.
Because I would think the end of 2019 would be a very aggressive date. So I was thinking that you might have knew something that we were unaware of. I mean, I was expecting, just in my mind, that you might have said 2020, 2021, something of that nature. But with you saying in a year from now, yeah, that sounds good to my ears, but it doesn't sound very realistic when you take in consideration all of the factors that are potential setbacks. And if I tell constituents, well, we talked to the director of Housing and Urban Development, and they said they're going to have those houses up on Bank Street by the end of 2019. Then I'm looking like a liar. You see?
No one would want you to look like a
2019
liar.
sounds
That's
very
what
unrealistic, and I would rather hear something more realistic than to be made to feel good by saying, yeah, you should have it by the end of 2019, since we got the financing out the way. And I would think that since 2008, that's 10 years, a lot had been done, such as approval of plans all of these things. All I'm waiting on is the money. Now we got the money, we've even put out for bids, but now we got the money, we can pay it. So we're ready to move forward. If those things had been taken care of, then I could see 19 being, somewhat realistic. But if those things haven't been done, then I just don't see that as being realistic, and I just wanted to get
Yeah, and
some.
I think one important, clarification, your original question, or as I heard it, or as I understood it, was when would you expect to see people moving into the homes?
Right.
This is not one big apartment complex, this is 24 single-family homes, and so all 24 homes won't be built and placed in service at the exact same time. So again, the answer to your question of when I expect, based on what I know, for people to start moving into homes, I do think that is a year. I do think that is the end of 2019. That's an estimate. I've already, responded to
So
the other.
we'll have 2 or 3 of them up by.
I mean, it could be, but that's to be worked out with the contractor. But everything that you said and everything that I think I added with respect to, issues that could come up, I think those are just common issues that happen with, development projects like this.
All right. Any other questions? If not, what I would ask you, Mr. Page, those documents that have been requested, if you would forward those to Mr. Williams, and then he will make sure that we get them distributed. Thank you very much. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. Airport Advisory Committee report, is that Mr. Cushion?
Okay. The Airport Advisory Board, they meet every quarter. Had a meeting December 5th. We're always brainstorming ideas for the betterment of the facility itself. I have a statement here it's written pretty much in agreement with the Advisory Board. Over the last few years, aircraft traffic and fuel sales have been on a decline. The board believed there are at least 2 causes for these declines. Private and corporate pilots and passengers need a reliable vehicle to visit businesses or clients when landing at a small or regional airport. Franklin has not had an upgrade in many years and would like to request a relatively new passenger van or comparable vehicle to upgrade the services provided at our airport. The current vehicle is a 1998 Ford 4-door sedan. We also believe we need an upgrade in our image by renaming our airport Franklin Regional Airport. This has been discussed and agreed with by all surrounding municipalities, by the economic directors of both Smithfield, Isle of Wight, and Southampton counties. By adding regionalization to our name, we appear to be more up-to-date and better to serve the flying public. Thanks for your consideration, Airport Advisory Board. I open it for discussion.
Okay. It's open for discussion.
Well, it's a Ford 4-door. It's pretty old. It's worn out.
No, well, we definitely need to upgrade on that, and as far as the name, I believe it was the name change, Mr. Page?
That's correct.
I think that would be in line to move forward with that, to enhance the growth of the airport.
What kind of vehicle are you looking for?
Well, ultimately, you'd be looking for a nice new 9-passenger van or something, but I don't think that's going to happen immediately. But I feel like any upgrade in a nice van would be awesome. A newer vehicle that represents our city itself when people come in and visit. So it could come from another department to this department. Another department can upgrade because it's not used all the time. But it would be nice to have an asset.
What's the average number of passengers that would be in this thing? I'm just trying to get a feel.
Most of the time, what you see on small aircraft, you're going to have 3 to 4. On larger aircraft, you could have 5 to 7.
Okay.
So
And this van is to take them from where to where?
most airports provide a vehicle when somebody lands in, like, say, Franklin. If they land in Franklin, they're to use that vehicle. Usually it's for a 2-hour period of time. They take the vehicle and make their visits to where they're going, corporate businesses or whatever, while they're in the area.
Mr. Mayor, I think Mr.
Private
Custis-
taxi. It's like a taxi for them to use.
Pretty much. It's a courtesy vehicle.
They're self-driven though.
Right. Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Cutchins could make that decision as to what upgrade van, since he's in the car mechanic business. That's a little out of my line. I might get a clunker.
Well, I think we ought to, I definitely think we should take it under consideration. I think
Yes.
we're gonna have to look at it from a budgetary standpoint. If we're, looking for a vehicle, the easy part is changing the name.
Yep, I agree.
I think we need to look at budgets and see what we have,
Well,
and then
we-
make a recommendation.
I've been asking for about a year from council for an upgrade, an updated version of what we have asset-wise on vehicles. Maybe we can get that. Once we get that, we can look at what we have and find something to fit the cost.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, looking at it. And I think we've got a fixed asset report that came out of the budget that we just had. Cafford, didn't it give us some fixed asset? Did it do all the vehicles also? Just lumped as one number? So we don't have anywhere to go to look at them. Okay. Well, we'll probably let's take a look at that and see, because I think that's one of the things we need to do. Do we need to go ahead and take action? Can we take action on the name change, or if everybody's in agreement, or do we need to vote on it? I guess we do need a motion and a vote.
I move to change the name of the airport to the Franklin Regional Airport.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I'm glad we got buy-in from everybody around us, and they're okay with Franklin as the regional airport.
Our property.
Well, it is, but, usually. And is that gonna, do we still maintain like the Beverly Rose Field, and so that name can stay, or is that a replacement of that?
I feel, as far as the advisory board, I feel like it was a replacement. That would be subject to council.
Now you've thrown the political football at us, haven't you?
I have.
Well, why can't we have two names? I mean, why
Well,
can't it be the Beverly
you
Field?
can have the Franklin Regional Airport, and you can have the John Beverly Rose Field, correct?
You can.
Does that do any?
Does that confuse
Does that
pilots?
confuse the issue?
The identifier for the pilots is still going to be the same. Just depends on how long a name you want it to be, and what's the reason. That would be my question.
If the identifier, see if I understand this right. So the identifier to the pilots would still be the Beverly Rose Field?
They don't use it that way, never have since
What
I've
have
been
they
flying.
used?
I started flying in '03. I haven't been active, but it's never been that. It's just Franklin Airport.
So why are we calling it the regional airport?
We're trying to step up and get with the 21st century as to regional. It's
But we don't
around,
serve,
it
but-
it provides for Isle of Wight, Southampton County, Smithfield, Windsor, and all around, so it is a
So
regional.
if somebody's coming into Gwaltney or Smithfield Packet, and they come into Franklin opposed to,
Newport News.
no, not Newport News.
They don't have anything.
I can give you a couple of brief things here. When you're a pilot and you go to fly in, you haven't flown in, you check local airports. First thing you're going to do is going to pop up Franklin Regional. Why would I want to land at Franklin Regional? Well, one thing, they've got a decent vehicle for me to use when I'm in the area. They start looking at these things when they choose their airport to come in. Price of fuel, hotels, restaurants, everything plays a factor. So anything to put us in a better spotlight is a plus. So that's basically where it goes.
I understand that.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
It's a marketing tool as well as a regional tool. Yes, sir.
Would you like us to come back with a resolution?
I think that's probably the better way to do it. In the meantime, if your committee, the airport advisory committee has any input on whether this should be a replacement, or we ought to do something else,
The advisory board pretty much said it should be a replacement,
Replacement,
but that would
okay.
be up to council.
well, we'll bring a resolution, and then we'll vote on the resolution one way.
Okay.
In order to do that, I need to withdraw my motion, which
Same
I'll
here.
do.
Okay, I was going to ask you to do that.
Yes. Thank
So
you.
the motion has been,
Mr. Mayor, just for a point of clarification, I support what's going on, and if it's an issue and we need to drop the other, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to know if that was,
That was,
We'll get a resolution at our next meeting, and we'll have something to vote
And
on.
hopefully by the next meeting, we can know what kind of vehicles we have available.
We'll try to
At the same time.
get some inventory, because that'd be nice to know too. If we can change it, we ought to,
Do the whole
let's make it,
ball.
let's make it clean. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question that was, is it not, do we not have a fixed asset report on everything that we own?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we can get that from our insurance company. We do have a list, and that's the way we make sure we insure the vehicles. So there is a list, we just need to get it for you.
But we don't maintain a depreciation schedule?
For vehicles, do we have, for vehicles, I know we do buildings and large fixed assets.
Yeah, for vehicles, they're for the recent ones, they're self-maintained. But in the past, a lot of times they were all lumped together. So they would have been like vehicles, we might have been divided into one fund. So they were not separate. But anything that's been going on since the last couple of years, they would
Okay, we'll take a look. We'll get those numbers, and that'll be good. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank the committee for the recommendation. City Manager's report, Mr. Mundy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have 3 items for discussion this evening to give you updates on if you have any questions or comments or input on. I'll start with the open positions that the city has. Starting with the city manager's position, there were 24 applications received for that position. Of the 24, you know as a council, but this is to update our public as well, all those applications have been screened by the council, and you are interviewing candidates that you see fit within the next 15 days. And that's pretty much it. So your interviews are an important step, and you determine where you go from there, and that would dictate the timeline and what you do after the initial interviews. For the HR director, 3 candidates have been interviewed in total, and this is a joint position in concert with Southampton County. One of those 3 candidates is being actively pursued, and we are doing the due diligence on each other at this time. And we could have an announcement soon as to who our first HR director will be in the shared capacity. The police chief, the city received 12 applications for the position. Interviews were conducted last week. Mr. McLemore and the mayor were the 2 representatives that you chose to be a part of that process. It was a long day. That was only the first part of the screening that's been done for this important position. It was advertised to be a very lengthy and detailed process. Staff continues to evaluate those that were interviewed last week. The goal from the beginning was to try to get somebody from January 1st, since that's when Chief Hardison is retiring. We know that the timing is not really important in making sure we get the right fit. We do have a very competent deputy chief there, Deputy Chief Porty. He will be the choice to be the interim chief in the absence of having a new chief ready to go on January 1st. So just know that we're working towards that goal, but if that's not practical, Deputy Chief Porty will be the interim police chief until a new chief is chosen. And that's where we are on that position. The Parks and Recreation Director, that closes this week, December 14th. So anybody that has not already applied, please get your application in quickly. We have gotten a lot of interest in that position so far, and that's a good thing. So we want as many people as possible to apply that has the qualifications for that position. And no interviews will be done until after the holidays. It's just not practical with the other positions that we have open and so forth, but all those will be collected by the deadline. We'll match those to the criteria that the city established, and we will determine, interviews based upon those most suited, based upon those qualifications. And then finally, Mr. Mayor, the fire chief and the finance director, there's been no activity on those 2 positions. And I told you that's pretty much about all we can handle right now with the active ones being the city manager, the HR director, and the police chief, and getting ready for the Parks and Rec director. And I'll pause there if you have any questions or comments.
Yes. First, you said we had 24 applications for city manager.
Yes, sir.
How many interviews do we have scheduled?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to go there or not. I will defer to your judgment and
We-
answer questions accordingly.
It's a simple question.
Suffice to say, we have identified potential candidates that will be interviewed within the next 15 days.
No, I asked the number.
We have identified potential candidates that will be interviewed in the next 15 days.
Mr. Mayor, the public can't know how many people we're interviewing? It's a simple question. That's not personal.
It has to do with personnel at this point in time. It also has
So-
to...
so the
it also-
public don't
excuse
get to
me, I
know
think,
how many-
I'll let you talk.
Oh,
It also has to do with confidentiality.
But I didn't
The
ask
people-
who is being, I just said, how many interviews are we having, scheduled to have?
We are conducting interviews for potential candidates in the next 15 days.
Oh, this is an attempt to hide from the public. Next concern I have is I have made clear to the council, and I'd like to make clear for the public, that I am in total opposition to sharing a human resource director with the county. It is the number 2 position in the city, in that this person will be having the personnel records and everything to do with every employee in this city. And it should be a position where that person is loyal to the entity in which they work for. I have presented to the city. Do you want me to start coming back to citizens' time? You said you would let me speak my mind.
Mr. McLemore, you have said what was on your mind.
No,
We are
you don't
moving
want the
along.
people to know
The
that y'all are
council-
up to some scamming again.
We're not up to
Y'all
scamming.
are
It has
crooks.
been
I
a-
done told you before. This council is full of snakes,
Thank you very much. Okay, all right.
and I hope they put that in the paper.
Please, I'm sure he will. Please go right ahead.
I'll provide
Mr.
them some
Mundy.
information, too.
Mr. Mayor, the Edmunds software update, very short report. Staff continues working with the Edmunds team. The anticipated cutover that you were told about at your last meeting would be mid-March. And you know, the IT people on our side, the city staff and the Edmunds people, they're working really hard to test what they're going to give us, data tests and so forth. Our treasurer, our commissioner of revenue, our IT director, finance department, they've been very diligent in that process. So everything is still moving forward, just like we talked about. And you did ask for monthly updates and what we plan to do the first meeting of each month. So your next meeting in January, which is the 14th, I believe, you'll get a more detailed report at that time. But everything is still on task, on time, just like we talked to you about at your last meeting.
Okay, so we will be receiving updates the first meeting of every month. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you
And
very
the
much.
last item in my reports, Mr. Mayor, Police Chief Hardison, as you know, is retiring on January 1st. The chief is doing what retiring officers typically do that meet the Code of Virginia requirements, requesting his service weapon per Code of Virginia 59.1-148.3. The normal process for localities is once the department requests the retiring officer to have their service weapon, the local governing body normally ratifies that decision. And if it's a council's wish to do that, you would simply pass a motion to authorize the sale of one Glock Model 21 pistol, serial number UNY692, to retired officer Philip M. Hardison for the price of $1 made payable to the city of Franklin.
Okay, is there a desired action for council?
So be it.
All right, so we have a motion to issue the Glock 21 to retiring Chief of Police Hardison for the cost of $1 payable to the city of Franklin. That's the motion, and we have a motion and a second by Mr. Cutchin. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 Aye. Nay.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. Okay, I will now, we'll go to the council reports on boards and commissions. Does anybody have anything?
Most boards are closed for December.
We do have a joint
Tomorrow, or
Thursday at TPO HR TAC.
Right.
We do have a joint meeting on that on Thursday. We'll keep you posted on what that's all about. That's looking at the funding for the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel extension. Okay. Any other?
I would like to say, Mr. Howell mentioned the Christmas parade. Our band participated in the Suffolk Parade on Saturday also, and it was a very nice parade, and the band performed very well, our high school band.
Thank you. Anything, anybody else have anything?
We got a memo today from Mr. Williams, I know, but one of the outages was at the end of Bob White. And I'd like to congratulate the electric department, as well as the police and the fire department for the fine job they did in directing things along.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. If you looked at the outages we had, and the responses were very good. So please pass along to both departments everybody's good work on getting everything cleaned up and getting the power restored. So,
There's a whole lot of people still out in the state.
yeah, thank y'all very much for your efforts. Anybody else have anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Franklin City Council meet in closed session to discuss and consider employees' performance and salaries, to discuss the deposition of publicly held property where the discussion is in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, to discuss the acquisition of property by the city, negotiating strategy of the public body, and to discuss the prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1, A3, and A5, and to discuss consultation with legal counsel pertaining to possible litigation requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel where consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the city pursuant to 2.2-3711A7 and 8.
Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye, nays have the same opportunity.
Aye.
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 And aye. We're going into closed session. Thank everybody for coming.